Thanks everyone for tuning in. Today with me on the Man Cave Report, I have a couple of esteemed friends and professionals in the psychology field. Uh, Introduce yourselves, let everyone know what you guys focus on specifically. Monet, we'll go with you first.
Okay, so my name's Monet Goldman. I am a child and family therapist working with kinders through 8th grade. And this school year, which starts next week, is going to be very interesting as we adapt to the COVID-19 pandemic. And yeah, that's my short intro. Been working 2 years at the school setting and looking to see how the school year takes off.
Cool. Rob?
Yeah, my name's Rob Dreyfous. Also an associate marriage and family therapist. I've done a year with like a public school, working in like a middle school. I also this year been doing working with like a little bit older, so like young adults and like helping them kind of transition to adulthood, So a lot of good work between the two of us.
How did you guys come into these particular professions? Was it something you guys always sort of felt like was a calling for you, or just sort of fell into it as you progressed through high school and college? How did you guys end up here?
Dude, yeah, I mean, I never thought I was going to be a therapist when I was younger. I think about that all the time. Like, I never thought I was going to be a therapist. I never thought I'd end up working in a field like this, honestly. It just kind of happened. And I'm really happy I did because, like, working in, like, mental health just in general is just so needed, And there's not a lot of young men doing it. There's not a lot of young men of color doing it. So a lot of our clients, I feel like, are young men of color. So to be able to have kind of, some role models, I feel like is helpful for them. And I know it would have been helpful for me as well growing up.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I fell into like a lot of the male / Asian Jewish, that's my background, kind of pass for work and education. So I knew I wanted to be a therapist when I was like 16, 17, because I really enjoyed the kind of deeper talks. And I had a lot of friends who like had mental health issues, and I myself had to do a lot of work. And I think it was hard to commit because there's, like Rob was saying, there's not a lot of guys in being a therapist. And so even though it's something I wanted to do, and I always had an interest in psychology, I always went into like engineering or like pre-med. And so I was like a science major and pre-med track until like my junior year of college at Cal Poly. And I just like fell in love with psychology once I got into like real junior, senior level psych lectures. And then once I started to figure out that you can make a living and help people, that's kind of, what made me commit down the road. And I didn't even know what a marriage and family therapist was until like my junior or senior year of college. So much like Rob, I just kind of fell into it there.
So in a short description, what is it that you guys do? I mean, I know the name is sort of indicative of what you do, but what would you say are some of the most common things you guys focus on in your day-to-day routine with your work?
You want to take that one, Monet?
Yeah. So I think the title marriage and family therapist can be confusing for a lot of people because you have, MFTs, marriage and family therapists, you have psychologists, psychiatrists, counselor, social worker. They all have different degrees. So Rob and I met in the same grad school program for our master's. We typically see maybe problems or originating through the like family system. So maybe like an individual's problems, like if a kid comes in with like depression, anxiety, things like that, we would work with the family and see like what the family coping styles are, what their maybe ways of parenting are, addressing things like that, addressing parenting and how to play with your kid, how to set limits with your kid, because we only see a kid 1% of their day or their life. 1% comes out to about 1 hour per week. So 99% of the other time, they're with their family, they're with their school system. Really targeting that aspect, which would be different from like a psychiatrist, which goes to medical school, prescribes medication. Social worker would look like at the broader social institutional reasons for how things go, and then you just kind of hone in on what kind of therapy or helping interventions, techniques, models from there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it pretty much covers it. Yeah, we really focus on a lot to do with the family. Maybe like one thing I would add is like I feel like a lot of the times we try to focus on helping them if they're experiencing some kind of like oppression or like being like subjugated in some way. We'll try to help them. We'll try to help them understand like those experiences of others. One thing I've like learned, doing our like law and ethics class, we have to like take every once in a while as therapists. I got reminded that like it's really in our definition to try and like seek out those who are vulnerable and support them and educate others on those populations and try to just kind of spread that awareness and ultimately kind of like help just I don't know be advocates for social justice, I guess, is kind of like a good thing I would add on to the kind of like system definition that Monet brought.
So given that you guys focus pretty heavily on the dynamic of the family and the system in which that operates, how do you guys feel that this sheltering in place, quarantine, COVID pandemic that we are currently all experiencing in different ways, either as individuals who live on their own or as part of a family dynamic in the type of work that you guys do, what are some of the most prevalent difficulties you guys come across in working with these families? Rob, I'll start with you.
Yeah. Well, I work with like people who are like young adults. So a lot of them are struggling with, issues that a lot of us struggled with in young adulthood, right? Like trying to become like financially independent and have your own stable housing, get transportation figured out, things like that a lot of us, had support from when we're, at that age. And a lot of the people I work with don't have that kind of support. That's where we kind of come in. As far as COVID, that's really impacting, everything. Like people having a hard time finding jobs. A lot of people who struggle with mental health issues don't exactly want to have the job at the kind of places that are hiring right now, like Walmart and Target and things like that are like more kind of fast-paced jobs. A lot of my clients have said like, hey, I really like something that was more slow-paced, like in a warehouse or kind of like in an outdoor kind of thing. They could just do like kind of like garden work or something. They don't really want like the fast-paced stuff. But kind of because of COVID, that's kind of like narrowed down a lot of the things to those kind of jobs. The other thing is a lot of them are struggling with like finding housing. And that's just COVID, I feel like, is just kind of like compounded a lot of those difficulties that they were already having, and then the impact of like on jails and hospitals. Just in general, it's like it seems like they're getting like an influx and they don't know what to do. A lot of these kind of facilities are becoming kind of like cesspools. It's unfortunate, and a lot of the systems I'm finding for like criminal justice and like mental health and like medical and stuff, how we all interacting right now, it's like a lot of people are just kind of throwing their hands up like, I don't know what to do, and we're just kind of waiting for someone to do something, and it doesn't seem like it's going to happen, at least something that's not going to be impactful in the way that people want,
Monet,
yeah.
what about you, since you work with kids that are a bit younger? Rob maybe has a generational difference in regards to the young adults that he's focusing on. What do you find to be some of the issues that COVID has brought upon the particular age range that you work with?
Yeah, I think um, the kids, there's a lot of anxiety, there's a lot of depression, that anxiety about just getting sick, getting COVID, sleep issues, depression around like not being able to engage with their friends. A lot of them that are not able to say bye to, a lot of kids that graduated weren't able to have a good goodbye as they moved on to the next school. So a lot of them are feeling cut off, and I think for the parents, um, they're not getting a break either, and the parents are facing all kinds of pressure as well, and they're not able to take care of themselves. So then what the parents are experiencing gets kind of transferred over to the kids as well. And if a parent's job is to help raise a happy, healthy kid, they're going to be a lot less able to. Um, so I think like the three major things that help people manage stress are like learning how to take a break from the stressors, getting sleep, you know, exercising, and then getting social support. But COVID has like made it like three to four times harder to do all those things because of the shelter in place order. So yeah, that's been a huge obstacle to address.
What do you guys feel this pandemic has exposed with regard to the flaws and cracks in our social and medical system? You know, we oftentimes hear from mouthpieces on television how great, you know, this country is. We have all these opportunities for people to get ahead. We're great in this way and that way, but you see this pandemic and how it's wreaking havoc on people across the United States. You know, unemployment has skyrocketed. People aren't getting the help that they need. What are some of the things that you guys, as far as systemic problems within our country's infrastructure, that need to be addressed in order to help people mentally deal with these types of situations in the future?
Mm. Well, I mean, the first thing that comes to mind is like the prisons, right? And like how a lot of these places are just becoming like hotbeds for the disease to just kind of, or for the virus to just kind of spread really quickly. You know, um, a lot of the jails I'm finding are just kind of like, you know, if they arrest someone, they'll just like release them like soon after. But sometimes they're keeping them for longer, and it's like, you know, do we? It's a pandemic right now. Do they really need to be in jail? You know, is there something like some kind of better solution we could think of? You know, are we even willing to have that talk? And I don't think a lot of the people at the top are. You know, that's unfortunate.
Yeah, I think there's a huge denial of the issues that poor working class people or just middle class people face, and the leadership that we have to implement the solutions are just very separate from the real experience of a lot of our families. I think that um, the response to pour money into people's pockets, we got that $1,200 check, but that's just not enough, right? So what?
Living in the Bay Area, man, holy shit.
what
Living in California, man.
how, yeah,
Yeah, but I mean, no offense, Rob, but like $1,200 is going to stretch a little farther in Sacramento than it does in Silicon Valley. Dude, I'm just saying.
It was still really nice, man. It was still really nice.
But like you guys are saying, it doesn't even matter. Like I mean, $1,200 doesn't get you anything really anywhere. You know, even in the most poor part of the United States where your living expenses are nothing. I mean, what are you going to get out of that? A month, maybe 2 months worth of rent and some groceries? Like,
Right.
we're in this thing for 5 months, you know? And it's interesting that, and I know that this is a common tired topic, but you always see socialism work for really wealthy people businesses seem to always get welfare handed to them when something like this happens. But it always seems like folks that are middle class, lower middle class, at the bottom of the barrel are left scrapping for crumbs. You know?
Yeah. So that's been what the majority of these multi-trillion-dollar stimulus bills, fiscal stimulus bills, have been going towards. Just super rich. I mean, our agency employees, at Uplift Family Services, California-wide, didn't meet the requirements because we're too large. I forgot what the max number of employees was. I think like 1,000 or something. So I think we have like 8,000 people, but we're a mental health agency, and it's like we are so impacted, and we don't qualify for these things. Our families are scrambling. Like, I think the first month of my job in March was just like, hey, here's where you can get food. Here's how you can sign up for these services. Some families were just way too just scattered to even talk to me, because I'm pretty low on their hierarchy of needs list. Like, if they're trying to figure out how to provide food, water, shelter for the kid, like talking to the counselor is like the last thing. And then maybe a few weeks or a month later, I could finally talk to them, start putting down resources and trying to address their kids' behavior. But yeah, socialism for the rich, kicking, and there's no jobs to go around. So this whole moral argument around like pulling yourself up by your bootstraps, like there's no jobs. So
Right.
What are people supposed to do?
Yep, for real. And the only kind of jobs that are hiring are the kind of jobs that it's like they don't value their people, They're just gonna pay you minimum wage, and if you call out sick maybe twice, they're like, screw it, we don't need you. We'll get the next person in line. Because there are so few jobs right now, Yeah.
And those are the essential workers, and the essential workers turn out to be the least paid. And it's like, these are the people that are keeping just the food going, the electricity going, keeping this whole country moving, and they're the least paid. So yeah, there really needs to be a huge just restructuring of the system that we're all in.
I think one thing that this has really highlighted for me is how privileged we've been for the last God knows how many years. We haven't really experienced a huge threat that is as existential as this has been. There was 9/11, which I know Rob was probably old enough to remember. Actually, you guys are both the same age, so you probably remember it too.
Yeah, I think I was in 4th grade, but I remember watching the Twin Towers.
Yeah. So like, I remember it vividly, like it was yesterday, but even that didn't have the same sort of reach in terms of how it impacted the economy and how it impacted people in this same way. And that's not to downplay any of the people who knew folks that perished or lost their livelihood or anything, because 9/11 was one of the worst things that I can remember. But the way that this virus has just spread across the entire world and shut down economies for weeks, if not months on end, and the fact that of all the, quote unquote, first world countries out there, the one that has struggled the most in keeping its people employed and making sure people had at least the bare minimum also happens to be the wealthiest by far. And it just is interesting to me where the priorities lie when it comes to people making the decision on how to take care of their people, and say what you want about big or small government, but in a situation like this, if you don't have a big enough government that's willing to take care of its constituents and specifically its people that need the most help, the wealthiest people in the United States increased their net wealth by like $300 billion in the first 5 months of this pandemic, if not more. And yeah, you're talking about companies that pay next to no federal income tax that got billions of dollars from the federal government. And then did what with that money? Gave their board members massive bonuses. It's incredible that oftentimes the people that are on the bottom of the totem pole are being told to lift themselves up by their bootstraps, while these too big to fail businesses are getting tens of billions of dollars for not thinking ahead.
Right. So stupid. Yeah.
Yeah, trickle down economics doesn't work. Does not trickle down. The wealth stays up there. You know, and I think our administration is just so corrupt, right? Because we obviously have the money. Like, we have trillions of dollars to spend, but it just goes to lining up the pockets of all these rich folks and their friends. And it's just, you know, I feel okay talking about it. I think maybe a year ago I would have stayed off from politics, but right now it just has come down to like survival. And I think it is hard to see the like personal and emotional impact of that when you're working with families and their kids who are just struggling day by day because of these policies. And now it's just like, you know what, like it's not enough now to be sitting back, right, and maybe being like a social media protester, but now it's about actually doing things to address these issues. And I think what's really interesting is seeing which types of politicians are starting to warm up to the idea of giving money directly to people, especially when you see that these politicians have re-elections coming up in a couple months. And you're starting to see these politicians starting to maybe warm up to the idea of giving money to people who are soon going to be going to voting booths, trying to vote them out.
Right. You know, it makes me think about Andrew Yang, right? And he was like, let's just give everybody money. And now, what was that, just like 9-10 months ago? Not even that long ago he was running. But everybody was calling him crazy. And now it's like, that's exactly what everybody's calling for. A lot of the kind of policies that line up with Bernie too. You know, a lot of these things that these guys were saying, people are starting to realize, like, hey, like that actually makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Hopefully they'll realize that it makes sense when we're not in a pandemic as well. Who knows?
I think it just kind of shows that if the government isn't willing to do anything to take care of you, then what the fuck good are they? You know,
Right.
I mean, so government's huge, right? And I think in a lot of ways it's too big. So I understand the thought process behind shrinking big government so that states more or less govern themselves. And I think as this pandemic has sort of raged on, you've seen how different states handle these problems. And you've seen what type of leaders have been doing things that seem to be helping versus hurting versus somewhere in the middle, right? But I think it's incredibly illuminating how we have this enormous government that is in control literally of trillions of dollars, and they're sitting on their thumbs quibbling about $1,000, $1,200, a couple extra $100 a week for unemployment, while people are literally, they're dying, they're getting sick, they can't take care of their families, and by extension, kids are struggling because, as you guys I'm sure are well familiar, anything that the parents are going through, the kid is going to be internalizing and feeling. And if those needs aren't being met, that will create its own myriad of problems down the road, which, gentlemen like yourself and others in your profession will be hopefully there to help bring them out of these situations. But I mean, what more should the government do, do you guys think, in the way of taking care of its people as a more broad topic?
Well, I think like right now it's funny because I think the Senate is in recess. So they're not even working, like they're all on vacation right now. So I think they could pass the bill first off. And so it's like, I think the craziest thing too was just the whole school opening issue and how I think right now Georgia is in session, and a lot of those kids are going in without masks. I think some Georgia student posted a picture of these super crowded hallways where it's like there's no social distancing happening whatsoever. And yeah, just back to your point, these kids are experiencing so much trauma at such a young age. It's going to affect them for years. At the same time, I don't want to say that just because somebody has trauma, that they're going to have like PTSD. Like there's a lot of resilient and like high functioning, well functioning people that do experience trauma too. But let's prevent trauma from happening if we can. So I think a trauma response that you're seeing from a lot of adults or people in power is a lot of denial, a lot of disbelief, and I think it's a very different response from what we saw in 9/11, where 9/11 people really ramped up, and I don't think we're really seeing that right now. We're seeing I was hearing from a young adult who had to move back in with her parents, and her parents aren't caring about it, but she, as a scientist, is like freaking out. Like, you guys have to wear masks. You guys can't be like going out to, barbecue parties. And so there's also these other conflicts that are rising. So yeah, there's a huge disconnect amongst generations.
Yeah.
And I mean, the impact that this will have is not going to be turned over by even next year or a few years from now. This is going to take years for businesses to come back because so many people lost their livelihood. It's going to take years for, the ubiquity of taking a vaccine again to become commonplace, whereas that's another issue that people can't seem to get behind is whether they want to take a vaccine or not. And I don't know how we can pull ourselves back from this, man. This has become such a divisive issue, and it's become such a partisan issue that you are either in this camp and you hate that camp or vice versa. And it just seems to be getting worse. And then you add into the fact the angst and frustration from the George Floyd incident in Minneapolis, which has only compounded everything, and what turned a powder keg into a full-on explosion because people are not only destitute from their workplace, they don't have an income, they also have a fuck ton of time on their hands, and you see something so blatantly violent and anti-human, you add that into the mixture, the cocktail of homelessness, depravity, loss of income, and now here we are, right? I don't know. So what are some ways you guys would advocate people find their bits of sanity or reclaiming their sanity during this time? What are some of the things you guys do to find your own sanity?
Yeah, for myself, I found it like super helpful to just kind of like focus on like little projects. So like I started a farm, so I'm growing like pumpkins and cantaloupes. I got some chickens, so I just started getting eggs and stuff. So like little things like that I could kind of like focus on, keep my time going. Yeah, pretty much stuff like that, like around the house, but also trying to see like my own therapist. And I'd highly recommend anybody who wants, like reach out to someone if they need support, whether that be a professional or just like a trusted loved one, that could always be helpful. So.
Yeah, well said, Rob. That's definitely something I've been doing. I've been growing some plants. My housemate has done a phenomenal job setting up a garden. I like going to nature. I like getting out of the house. I've always liked getting out of the house, but I think it's been more important now, more than ever. I'm also studying for my exam, so I hit 3,000 hours or exceeded that, which is how many hours you need before you can become fully licensed. And so preparing for this like massive 4-hour exam to then become licensed marriage and family therapist. So that's keeping me going. And I'm playing video games. I had not played video games in 3 years when I started up the computer. It had like almost the exact date, like May something, but like 2017. And I just cranked it back up and threw myself into it. And it really helped me stop from overthinking, over analyzing, over preparing. And it got me out of this thought loop because I could throw my whole attention into the video games. And I surprisingly found it super helpful and therapeutic. And now I'm actually creating a video game therapy group for a lot of the kids that I'm working with.
Are you advocating to parents to let their kids play video games so that they can feel better in this pandemic? Is that what you're telling me, Monet?
I mean, it could help. I mean, I think most parents now are more worried about how to get their kids off video games and into the online classroom. So that's another huge piece of my work is helping parents build positive parenting strategies. You know, setting expectations, setting structures, setting rewards. You know, so that video game time can be managed, and trying to create like a healthy play diet of sorts.
What are some like free or inexpensive resources that you guys would recommend to people that are struggling right now, that perhaps lost their insurance or their therapist is no longer working because of, you know, all this pandemic stuff that's going on? What are there resources that people can look to if they need something?
Well, you know, a few things I would think of is just trying to get with your local like Medi-Cal or Medicare or whatever, Medicaid. You know, I know that they provide services for free for a lot of the people that we work with, you know, and that could be pretty easy to just call like your local county's like access line if you're in California. Um, we're only licensed in California, so we're not truly sure about outside of California. But sure, if you Google like, I don't know, free mental health services in whatever state you are, if you're outside of Cali, you might be able to find it. Other than that, I think like support groups can be really helpful for a lot of people. So like a lot of like sobriety groups like AA have moved to like online formats, which you might be able to find as well if you Google that. Some people find like support groups on Facebook or like on Meetup to be really helpful as well, to just kind of like share their issues and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely piggybacking off that. I think I've, you know, I used to work at the suicide hotline, but suicide hotlines are 24/7 free access that also provide like resourcing help. So if you call in and you're like, man, I'm taking care of a dad who has Alzheimer's and I don't know what to do, I'm super stressed. We would like go through our resource list and find like Alzheimer's caregiver support group that they could go to, or like we'd ask like, okay, what's your insurance type? You know, and so a lot of these, you know, free 24/7 lines also can help with linking you to support. So don't be intimidated by like the suicide title. And then if you are stressed, you can also talk to them, even if you're not suicidal, but just stressed out, and it's free as well. Open Path Collective is a really affordable therapy directory. So therapists there offer therapy for $30 to $50 an hour. And I think copays run around $30 anyway. So it's a very affordable way of getting help. Psychology Today is, you know, a very popular therapist directory as well. Some therapists might have like groups posted there, maybe open to giving you a lower fee on a sliding scale. So even if they maybe have a high fee, try calling anyway. And also they might be able to give you some sort of help as well. So that would be probably my biggest suggestions on top of what Rob was saying.
Ooh, I just thought of one too. So I think it's specific to California, but the Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, DBSA. You can find their info if you just like Google Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance. So they have free groups as well. And you could just, yeah, Google Depression and Bipolar Support Alliance, and you should be able to find info about their groups. I think they're all over California.
Yeah, yeah. And then for the Al-Anon groups that you're bringing up, Rob, I think there's even teen ones for families. So like whose parents are alcoholics. They're having like free Zoom ones, and it's just they offer it so frequently throughout the week. It's really a great resource too.
And then one thing else I was thinking about is if you just want to like meditate or something, there's all kinds of apps. I'm not going to think of any one in particular right now, but there's all kinds of apps if you want to just like look in your Play Store for like meditation apps, or you could go on YouTube and look for like relaxation or guided meditation music and stuff like that. If meditation is like your type of thing and you don't want to pay for it.
Yeah, yeah. And there's what is it? Yeah, even if you're not like, I feel like some people might be turned off from meditation, but if you think of it as like a way of being present, accepting what's happening, having like a more calm reaction to what's going on inside your head, and trying to build more like non-resentful types of feelings, that could be helpful. Yeah, just doing yoga, stretching. There's some other thing. Oh, there's an app called Calm Harm app that I give to the teens I work with who may be cutting or like maybe like having suicidal thoughts. And it's a great resource because it just gives you like a ton of activities to do, from like 5 minutes or 10 minutes, breathing. So if you're just bored in your house, which a lot of the teens I work with are, they can just scroll through this app and it just like randomly gives you like some activity to do. So those simple things can be super helpful.
For sure. And one last one I want to throw in there. If you're ever having thoughts of harming yourself or another, there's always the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but if you Google National Suicide Prevention Hotline, they'll always have someone to talk to you if you give them a call.
Yep.
Appreciate you guys giving all that information out. I know that in this day and age, people are looking for any type of help they can find, you know, whether it's free or inexpensive. And I think it's good that you guys, you know, were able to come to the table and bring some options for people that maybe didn't know where to look or didn't know that these things even existed. I don't want to keep you guys too long. It's already after 11:30, and I think you guys did a great job talking about some of the stuff you work on and ways in which we can all do a better job of making sure we're taking care of each other, our kids, you know, and our friends and family during this time. I think one thing that I would probably say we three would agree on is, since the government is probably not going to help take care of each other, it's more incumbent upon each individual person to reach out to the person next to them and just ask them, how are you doing? What's going on? Is anything going on that you want to get off your chest? Because I think one thing that people today don't want to do is they don't want to feel like a burden. So they don't want to share their frustrations or their difficulties during this time because they know that everyone is frustrated and dealing with stuff. But I think keeping that stuff inside and not sharing it with someone else is, in some ways, you're directly self-harming yourself because you can't keep that stuff inside. And in doing so, you'll come to find that other people are dealing with a lot of the same stuff you are. And it's easier to go through something when you know someone else is right there with you.
Right. Definitely. Well put.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, most definitely. I would say that's been kind of the strength of the video games too. It's like it's helped me connect with other people that I hadn't talked with in a long time, and then we'll just play like some game and then start like just chatting, but also kind of interacting. I was very fortunate to have some people just call me out of the blue. and just going on a walk over the phone. So absolutely, definitely reach out to your people.
I think if anything, people should take that last little bit that you just said, Monet, and take the time to pull out that phone that they're always looking at anyways and send a text to someone who maybe they haven't talked to in a while and say, hey, how's it going? I know things are difficult for everyone right now, but I just want to let you know that I'm here for you if you need anything. I hope, I implore people to find whatever bit of humanity that they may still have left during all this madness and use it to bridge a gap of empathy with someone else, because you never know what other people are dealing with. And sometimes that one simple, hey, how's it going? Thinking about you and your family. Hope you guys are staying healthy. Let me know if you need to talk about anything, can be the linchpin that keeps them from doing something harmful to themselves or somebody else. I think community is important, and we as individuals are that community. And if we don't make it a community, then it's for naught. So thank you guys for taking the time to talk to me. I know you guys could definitely be sleeping or doing a lot of other things at 11:30 at night, but I appreciate the work you guys do. I respect you both for all the work that you're doing and trying to make a difference in the world. So thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you. Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, thanks, Luca, for getting this channel going too. And
hopefully we can do something more in the future. I'm sure I will at some point. So maybe down the road we'll get back together and we'll see where things have progressed in a few months and see what new challenges maybe have come down the pipeline as we all evolve to our new idea of normalcy.
Yeah, in a few months, around November, things are going to be we're going to have a lot to talk about.
Yeah.
And maybe we'll have another stimulus check by then.
Yeah,
maybe. While the rest of the world is getting like, $2,000 every week or two, and we're sitting over here like, cool, okay, I can make $1,200 stretch for 6 months.
Wow times.
All right, guys, stay well, be healthy, give your loved ones my best, and I'll see you guys later.
All right, man. Thanks.
Take care.